The Nexus Station Challenge. Nexus Station hung in the void like a metallic flower, its countless arms stretching into space. Each petal housed a different alien species, and today, representatives from across the galaxy had gathered for the century's most prestigious event. The Galactic Engineering Championships were about to begin. Maya Chen stepped off the transport shuttle, her tool bag slung over her shoulder and her worn jumpsuit a stark contrast to the gleaming environment around her. At 28, she was young by human standards, but her weathered hands told stories of countless hours spent elbow-deep in machinery. Her black hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and her dark eyes took in every detail of the station's incredible architecture. The arrival bay buzzed with activity as species from every corner of known space prepared for the competition. Towering Thakari delegates moved with mechanical precision, their chrome bodies reflecting the station's lights. Graceful Zephyrians floated nearby, their crystalline forms humming with contained energy. The insectoid Kratheri clicked and chittered in their complex language, while examining holographic blueprints with compound eyes. Maya walked through the crowd, drawing stares and whispered comments. Most of these beings had never seen a human before. Earth had only made contact with the galactic community 3 years ago, and humans were still considered a curiosity rather than a serious presence in galactic affairs. A Thakari official approached her, its mechanical voice translating through the universal communicator clipped to her collar. "You are the Terran representative. There must be some mistake. This competition requires advanced technical knowledge." Maya smiled politely. "No mistake. I'm Maya Chen, chief engineer from the Mars Colony shipyards. I'm here to compete." The Thakari's optical sensors whirred as they focused on her simple appearance. "Fascinating. We shall observe your performance with interest." As Maya made her way to the registration area, she overheard conversations in dozens of languages, all translated into her earpiece. The comments weren't particularly flattering. "Humans, aren't they the ones who still use chemical rockets? I heard they only discovered quantum mechanics a few centuries ago. Why would they even bother competing? This is embarrassing." Maya had heard it all before. Ever since first contact, humanity had been viewed as the galaxy's newest toddlers, stumbling around with primitive technology, while the established species watched with amused tolerance. Today, she intended to change that perception. The competition begins. The competition arena was a vast spherical chamber at the station's heart. Floating platforms held workstations for each contestant, surrounded by massive screens that would display their progress to the thousands of spectators in the observation galleries. The challenge would be broadcast across the galaxy, with trillions of beings watching. Commissioner Valix, a distinguished Altarian with flowing tendrils and an air of authority, addressed the contestants. "Welcome, engineers of the galaxy. Today's challenge will test not just your knowledge, but your creativity and problem-solving abilities under pressure." The arena fell silent as he continued. "You must construct a faster-than-light communication device capable of transmitting data across our galaxy instantaneously. You have 6 hours. Your materials are limited to what you can find in the scrapyards below each platform." Maya's heart raced. FTL communication was the holy grail of engineering. The current galactic network relied on quantum entanglement relays that took days or weeks to transmit messages across vast distances. An instantaneous system would revolutionize civilization. She looked down at her assigned scrap pile. Broken ship components, discarded mining equipment, obsolete computer cores, and various unidentifiable alien technologies lay scattered below. To most engineers, it looked like junk. To Maya, it looked like possibility. The timer began, and chaos erupted across the arena. The Zephyrians immediately began arranging crystalline components in complex geometric patterns, their bodies glowing brighter as they channeled energy through the structures. The Thakari methodically sorted through materials, their mechanical precision evident in every movement. The Kratheri worked in perfect synchronization, each team member handling a different aspect of their design. Maya climbed down to her scrap pile and began examining components. While other contestants reached for the most advanced-looking pieces, she picked up seemingly worthless items. A corroded power coupling, a cracked sensor array, and what appeared to be a broken children's toy from some alien species. Hours passed. The other contestants had impressive structures taking shape on their platforms. The Zephyrians had built a towering crystal spire that pulsed with rainbow light. The Thakari had assembled a perfect geometric device with millions of precisely calibrated components. The Kratheri had created something that looked like a living machine, writhing with organic curves and bioluminescent patches. Maya's workstation looked chaotic by comparison. Components were scattered everywhere, connected by jury-rigged cables, and held together with what appeared to be salvaged adhesive. Several times, she had to restart when a connection failed or a component overloaded. The crowd began to murmur with amusement. "Look at the human," someone laughed. "She's building a pile of garbage." This is what happens when primitive species try to compete with their betters. Maya ignored the comments and continued working. She had learned long ago that the best solutions often came from combining things that weren't supposed to work together. While her competitors followed established engineering principles, she was thinking outside every box they had ever imagined. The testing phase. With 30 minutes remaining, Commissioner Valix announced the testing phase. Each device would be evaluated for range, clarity, and transmission speed. The Zephyrians went first, their crystal spire now reaching nearly to the arena's ceiling. Energy crackled between the crystalline elements as they activated their device. For a moment, it seemed to work. Lights danced through the crystal structure, and readings showed energy building toward transmission. Then, with a sound like breaking glass, the entire spire shattered. Crystal fragments rained down on the platform as the Zephyrians stared in shock at their failure. The Thakari device was next. Its geometric perfection was beautiful to behold, each component fitting together with mathematical precision. They activated it with confidence, expecting flawless performance. Instead, the device began to vibrate, then shake violently, before ultimately tearing itself apart from internal harmonics. The mechanical precision that was the Thakari's strength had become their weakness. One by one, the other contestants' devices failed. Some exploded spectacularly, others simply refused to function, and a few managed brief moments of success before breaking down. The crowd grew restless as failure followed failure. Finally, it was Maya's turn. She looked at her ramshackle construction with satisfaction. It wasn't pretty, but every component had been chosen for a specific reason, every connection made with purpose. The device incorporated principles from a dozen different alien technologies, but held together by human intuition and creativity. "Ready when you are," she called to the commissioners. Maya activated her device. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then readings began appearing on screens throughout the arena. The device was working, but more than that, it was working better than anyone had imagined possible. Test messages began transmitting across the galaxy instantaneously. Not only was the communication faster than anything previously achieved, but the signal was cleaner, used less power, and somehow managed to boost itself as it traveled, arriving stronger at distant points than when it left. The arena fell silent as the implications sank in. Maya hadn't just succeeded where the galaxy's best engineers had failed. She had created something that would change civilization forever. The revelation. Commissioner Valix approached Maya's platform, his expression unreadable. "Human Maya Chen, explain how this device functions." Maya grinned and gestured to her creation. "Most of you were trying to build something completely new. I looked at what already existed and found ways to make it work better. That corroded power coupling. It actually creates quantum fluctuations that enhance signal coherence. The broken sensor array filters out background noise. And this little toy here." She held up the alien device she'd found. "It's designed to entertain children by creating impossible geometric shapes. Turns out those impossible shapes are perfect for folding spacetime." She continued, warming to her subject. You see, humans don't have one particular strength like other species. Zephyrians are masters of energy manipulation. Thakari excel at precision engineering. Kratheri understand biological systems better than anyone. But humans, we're generalists. We see connections others miss because we don't limit ourselves to one way of thinking. The implications rippled through the crowd. Humans weren't just primitive newcomers. They were problem solvers who approached challenges from angles that more specialized species couldn't imagine. Commissioner Valex nodded slowly. The Galactic Engineering Championships have a new winner. But more importantly, the galaxy has a new perspective on human capabilities. As news of Maya's victory spread across the communication networks, something shifted in the galactic consciousness. The species that had dismissed humanity as primitive began to reconsider. Perhaps these newcomers had something valuable to offer after all. Maya stood on her platform, surrounded by the pieces of her revolutionary device, and smiled. This was just the beginning. The ripple effect. News of the human victory spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On crystalline cities floating in gas-giant atmospheres, Zephyrian scholars huddled around communication arrays, replaying footage of Maya's device in stunned silence. In the mechanical forge worlds of the Thakari Collective, production lines paused as chrome-plated engineers processed the implications of their defeat. Across 1,000 worlds, the narrative was changing. Maya found herself at the center of a media storm unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Interview requests flooded in from every major news network. Scientific journals wanted detailed explanations of her revolutionary communication device. Most surprisingly, engineering guilds from across known space began requesting human consultants for projects they had struggled with for decades. 3 weeks after the competition, Maya stood in her temporary quarters aboard Nexus Station, looking out at the stars and wondering how her life had changed so dramatically. Her door chimed, and Commissioner Valex entered. His flowing tendrils moving in what Maya had learned was a gesture of respect. Maya Chen, the Galactic Council has reached a decision regarding your species, he said formally. We would like to extend an invitation for humanity to participate in several critical projects currently facing the galaxy. Maya raised an eyebrow. What kind of projects? Velex activated a holographic display showing various star systems across the galaxy. Problems that our best minds have been unable to solve. Perhaps human creativity can provide the breakthrough we need. The Delphian Crisis. Maya's first assignment took her to Aquatica Prime, homeworld of the Delphians. The journey through hyperspace gave her time to study the problem. The Delphians were an aquatic species who had built magnificent underwater cities in the deep oceans of their world. For millennia, these cities had been marvels of engineering, perfectly adapted to their environment. Now, they were dying. The transport ship descended through Aquatica Prime's thick atmosphere, breaking the surface of a vast ocean that stretched to every horizon. Below the waves, lights flickered like underwater stars, marking the Delphian settlements that dotted the ocean floor. Maya was met by Depth Singer Coral, a Delphian whose translucent body pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that indicated deep concern. Through her translator, Coral's voice carried the musical quality typical of her species. Human Maya, our cities are failing. The biostructural supports that have maintained our homes for thousands of years are deteriorating faster than we can replace them. Our best architects cannot determine why. Maya donned the breathing apparatus designed for her species and followed Coral beneath the waves. The sight that greeted her was both beautiful and heartbreaking. Massive structures that looked grown rather than built stretched across the ocean floor, their organic curves and flowing lines perfectly harmonized with the underwater environment. But everywhere Maya looked, she could see signs of decay. Walls were cracking, support columns were weakening, and entire sections of some cities had already collapsed. The Delphian engineers had tried everything their science could suggest. They had analyzed the biomaterials, tested new growth formulas, and even attempted to replace failing sections with mechanical supports. Nothing worked for more than a few months before the problems returned. Maya spent days swimming through the cities, examining the structures, and talking with Delphian engineers. She quickly realized that their approach, while sophisticated, was based on treating the symptoms rather than understanding the root cause. Your biomaterials aren't actually failing, she explained to a gathering of Delphian architects. They're evolving. The assembled Delphians pulsed with confusion patterns, evolving. But we designed them to be stable. Maya gestured to samples she had collected. You designed them perfectly for the ocean conditions that existed when you first built these cities. But your ocean has changed over the millennia. Temperature shifts, chemical composition variations, even changes in tidal patterns. Your biomaterials are trying to adapt, but they're fighting against their original programming. She continued, her excitement growing as the solution became clear. Instead of fighting the evolution, work with it. Let the materials adapt naturally, but guide that adaptation. Think of it as gardening rather than manufacturing. The solution Maya proposed was elegantly simple. Rather than trying to control every aspect of the biomaterial's behavior, the Delphians would create adaptive frameworks that could guide evolution in beneficial directions. The materials would still change over time, but they would change in ways that strengthened rather than weakened the structures. Within months, the first test cities began showing dramatic improvements. The biomaterials weren't just surviving. They were thriving, growing stronger and more resilient with each passing day. The Delphians were amazed to discover that their cities were now better adapted to their environment than they had ever been before. The rockworm revelation. Maya's success on Aquatica Prime led to another invitation, this time from the silicon-based rockworms of the Tremor system. These beings lived in the rocky cores of asteroids and planets, mining precious materials through natural processes that had made them wealthy beyond measure. But they faced a problem that threatened their entire civilization. The rockworm delegation that met Maya was unlike anything she had encountered before. They communicated through vibrations in solid matter, their massive forms moving through stone as easily as humans moved through air. Maya needed a special suit that translated their seismic communications into sound waves she could understand. Human engineer, rumbled the delegation leader, a massive being called Boulder Knower Granite. Our mining efficiency has been declining for centuries. The easy materials are exhausted, and the deeper we go, the more energy we need to extract resources. Soon, we will spend more energy mining than the materials we extract are worth. Maya studied the rockworms' mining operations with fascination. Their entire process was based on biological functions. They literally ate rock, processed it internally, and excreted refined materials. It was incredibly efficient, but also incredibly linear. They had optimized each step of the process individually without considering how the steps interacted. You're thinking like individual miners, Maya explained to the assembled rockworms. But what if you thought like an ecosystem? Her solution involved creating mining networks where the waste products of one rockworm became food for another. Different types of rockworms specialized in different materials, but instead of working separately, they would work in coordinated chains. One would extract and partially process ore, another would refine it further, and a third would extract trace elements that the others had missed. But Maya's real breakthrough came when she suggested that the rockworm's own waste products could be used to modify the rock they were mining, making it easier to process. By pre-treating mining sites with carefully designed bacterial cultures, also developed from rockworm biology, they could begin processing materials before they even started eating the rock. The result was a 300% increase in mining efficiency and the discovery of previously unknown materials that only became available through the new multi-stage process. The rockworms were so impressed that they invited Maya to stay and help them redesign their entire industrial civilization. The Galactic Crisis. Maya's reputation was still growing when the crisis hit. The Zephyrian home system star began showing signs of instability. Solar flares had been increasing in intensity for months, and stellar physicists from across the galaxy confirmed the worst fears. The star was approaching collapse. When it went supernova, It would destroy not just the Zephyrian homeworld, but 3 other inhabited systems in the blast radius. Billions of lives hung in the balance. The Galactic Council convened emergency sessions, bringing together the greatest minds from every species. Traditional solutions were proposed: massive evacuation fleets, stellar containment fields, even attempts to artificially stabilize the star. Every option was either impossible with current technology or would take decades to implement. That's when Commissioner Velix made an unprecedented suggestion. We should consult the human. The council chamber erupted in debate. Surely this crisis was beyond the capabilities of any single individual, especially one from such a young species. But as the arguments continued and no viable solutions emerged, the voice calling for Maya's involvement grew stronger. Maya received the emergency summons while working with the rockworms on Tremor 7. The urgency in Velix's communication was unmistakable. She immediately boarded the fastest ship available and raced toward the Zephyrian system. The journey gave her time to study the problem, and what she found was both terrifying and fascinating. The Zephyrian star wasn't just unstable, it was caught in a feedback loop that would inevitably lead to its destruction. Previous attempts to stabilize it had actually made the problem worse by interfering with natural stellar processes. When Maya arrived at the Crisis Coordination Station, she found representatives from every major species working frantically on solutions. Massive computers ran stellar simulations, trying to find some combination of interventions that might work. The greatest scientific minds in the galaxy have been working for weeks without success. Maya studied their work with growing realization. Once again, they were trying to control a natural process instead of working with it. "You're fighting the star instead of listening to it," she told the assembled scientists. Stars are incredibly complex systems with their own natural rhythms and processes. This one isn't sick. It's trying to evolve into something new. She gestured to the stellar readings displayed around the command center. "Look at the flare patterns. They're not random. There's a rhythm here, a pattern that suggests the star is attempting to transition to a new stable state. Instead of trying to force it back to its old configuration, what if we help it complete the transition safely?" The solution Maya proposed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever attempted. Rather than trying to contain or control the stellar collapse, they would guide it. A network of precisely placed quantum field generators would create controlled distortions in spacetime around the star, allowing it to collapse and reform in a stable configuration, while containing the explosive forces that would otherwise destroy the surrounding systems. The plan required technology from every species in the galaxy: Zephyrian energy manipulation, Thakeri precision engineering, Krathuri biological computers, Delphian adaptive materials, and rockworm deep space construction capabilities. It also required human creativity to see how all these different technologies could work together in ways their creators had never imagined. The new galaxy. The Stellar Reconstruction Project took 8 months of intensive work. Ships from across the galaxy converged on the Zephyrian system, bringing materials and expertise. For the first time in galactic history, every major species worked together on a single project. Maya found herself at the center of it all, not as a leader but as a translator. She helped the different species understand each other's contributions and find ways to combine their technologies effectively. Her human perspective allowed her to see connections that specialists from individual species missed. When the moment came to activate the Stellar Modification Network, trillions of beings across the galaxy watched. The star's surface rippled with energy as the quantum field generators created controlled distortions in the fabric of spacetime itself. For hours, the star pulsed and writhed as fundamental forces battled for dominance. Then, gradually, it stabilized. The new star was smaller than the original but far more stable. It would burn steadily for billions of years, providing safe energy for all the worlds in its system. More importantly, the process had created several new types of exotic matter that would revolutionize technology across the galaxy. The celebration that followed lasted for days. But for Maya, the real reward came in a private message from Commissioner Velix. The Galactic Council has voted unanimously to invite humanity to join as full members. We realize now that intelligence takes many forms, and your species brings a perspective we desperately needed. Maya stood on the observation deck of Nexus Station, looking out at the stars with new eyes. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy, not through military might or technological superiority, but through the simple act of thinking differently. Behind her, the communication system chimed with another crisis, another impossible problem that needed solving. Maya smiled and headed back to work. The galaxy was full of challenges, and humans were just getting started. As she walked through the corridors of Nexus Station, aliens who had once dismissed her as primitive now nodded with respect. Young beings from dozens of species approached her with questions and requests for mentorship. The galaxy had changed its mind about humanity, and that change was just the beginning of something far greater. In research laboratories across known space, alien scientists began studying human approaches to problem solving. Universities started offering courses in human-style creative engineering. Most surprisingly, other species began sending their brightest minds to Earth to learn directly from human teachers. Maya paused at a viewport and watched as another ship arrived at the station. This one carried a delegation of young humans, engineers and scientists who would spread throughout the galaxy, bringing human creativity to challenges on 1,000 worlds. The age of human influence in the galaxy had begun, and it would be built not on conquest or dominance, but on the simple revolutionary idea that there was always another way to look at any problem. The galaxy would never be the same.